Hi, this is Don Williams, editor of Ultimate Motorcycling Magazine, and I'm here with the 2025 Honda NT1100. Now, as much as I'd like to say this is an all-new bike, it's not all new. It's actually the second generation of the NT1100. We didn't get the first generation. They sent it over to Europe, let them work all the bugs out, and brought it over here to the United States for 2025. And what it is, I think you can probably tell by looking at it if you're an experienced motorcycle rider, it's a sport touring machine. Now, underneath this sport touring skin is a lot of Africa Twin, the adventure bike that's been quite popular for a number of years now. This has the same motor and the same frame as the Africa Twin that we all know and love. But to make it a sport touring motorcycle, they have added a different swing arm, different suspension, and most importantly, 17-inch wheels at the front and back. Now, Honda's been kind of moving towards this. The original Africa Twin had the 18-21 combo, and then they have recently gone to the 17-19 more street-oriented wheel set for one of the variants of the Africa Twin 1100. Kind of actually a little bit of a surprise, the Dunlop GPR 300 tires. We're used to seeing those on smaller sport bikes. I haven't seen it, I don't think, at least in my memory, on a motorcycle this large. So it's kind of a different way to go on that. It actually leaves you plenty of room for improvement if you want to upgrade to more aggressive tires for sport riding. But really, the NT1100 is not what I would call, like, if you look at the sport touring balance, you have something like a Ducati Supersport 950. That's way in the sport end. This is much more in the touring mode. The seating position, the comfort of the seat, but at heart, this is a touring motorcycle more than a sport motorcycle. It's got the 1100 twin with the staggered 270-degree crank. So it has that great burble. When I was riding by somebody else on one of these, it just sounds good. You don't notice it so much when you're sitting in it because you have the bags kind of muffling the muffler, so you don't really hear them that much. But the bike has a good sound, has that good, faux V-twin feel to the motor because of the firing range. Now, let me talk about the motor a bit. And this is true for the Africa Twin, and it continues to be true for the NT1100. It's very difficult to tell you what the motor is like. And the reason for that is that there are so many different ways that you can tune the motor to your desires of riding. You have 3 different power modes. You have urban, rain, and touring. No sport, just urban, rain, and touring. That kind of tells you that they don't see it so much as a sport bike. And then you have 2 user customizable modes, and I like that. You have 2, so you can have one for one kind of riding and one for another kind of riding. You're not just stuck with one mode that you can set up yourself. And that allows you to set up the traction control, the power, amount of power that it puts out, and engine compression braking. So for me, I like full power. Who doesn't? I mean, that's kind of going to be the typical, but although I'll get into it, you don't always want full power. But full power, when I'm riding around, I like the maximum engine compression braking, and then I'll have either the minimal or medium traction control. Really, on this bike, it doesn't seem to make all that much difference which one you pick. We didn't ride in the rain. It was a beautiful sunny day today. Yesterday, it hinted at it, but it did not. It rained on it, maybe even a little bit of drizzle, but I never felt like the traction control was kicking in or doing anything. Although I did feel the ABS a couple times going hot into the corner. So, and I kind of attribute that a little bit to the GPR 300 tires, which are not the highest performance sport tires, but are more of a long wear sport touring with a focus on touring tire. So let me just kind of give you a quick rundown. I mean, we've seen this on the Africa Twin, but you may not be familiar with it because if you're interested in sport touring rather than adventure or venture touring, you won't be familiar with the Africa Twin. You have, first of all, this is a DCT model. If you were hoping for a model that you can shift yourself, you're going to have to go fly over to Europe and buy one of those and figure out a way to get it back in, because the only version that they have in the United States is going to be the DCT version. And also in Europe, they have a version of the NT1100 that has semi-active suspension. This is not that. This is the standard suspension. It has no damping adjustments at all. You can adjust the spring load in the front and rear, but as far as the damping goes, it's as is, and it's pretty soft. It's definitely oriented towards comfort while touring rather than being exceptionally firm for super hard sport riding. When you go into a corner hard, you can feel the front end drop down. Some people will crank up the preload. That's kind of not really, a true way to fix that problem. You need to do something with the damping, maybe with the oil, but you certainly, when you ride the bike, the harder you ride, the more you realize that it is a sport touring motorcycle rather than a sport touring motorcycle. So when you get on that DCT, you're matched with a couple of choices right away. You have what they call drive mode, and they have sport mode. Drive mode is the one where it shifts up as fast as it can. When you're going like 30, 35 miles an hour, it's already in 6th gear. It's all about getting the most out of the miles per gallon, the easiest ride, the smoothest everything. So I don't like it for the most part because it shifts up too fast. It's like, the bike's not going to stall because of the DCT. That's not in the cards, but it just doesn't have that feeling you get like you would. It shifts much faster than you would if you were riding the bike in almost any circumstance. Now the sport mode, they divide it in 3 modes, and they make it really clear which one's which. They have a short bar, a medium bar, and a high bar. Instead of giving you like names or like any other like designation, it's this kind of subtle little thing on the LCD. Now there's a TFT on the top, but an LCD on the bottom that gives you some of the other information, such as what mode you're in. And so you can pick between 1, 2, and 3 aggressive shifting modes. And for me, I found I like kind of the number 2 mode, the middle mode. There's nothing really wrong with either of the other two, but that's just the one that works for me. But what's great about this bike is that you can set it up however you want. So you have these 4 choices of shift patterns and how fast it shifts up and how fast it shifts down. And then you have the 3 power modes, and then you have the 2 user configurable modes. So that's a lot to go through, and you really have to do that if you want to get the most out of the bike and for you to like the bike as much as you possibly can. You have to put in the time to test the different modes. And within a few hours of riding and variety of circumstances, I kind of figured out which modes I wanted to set up for myself. Although the touring mode is a great default mode. The urban mode around town works fine. It didn't rain again, so I didn't use the rain mode, but I'm sure if it rained, I would put it in the rain mode because they call it rain, and who might argue with that? So the bike is very, very, very customizable. So when I tell you how it works, it doesn't work the same way, like coming out of corners, accelerating hard. There's all these different variables that change what it does when you twist that throttle. But what I will say it does, and there's so many algorithms built into this bike to make it work right with the automatic shifting. In a general sense, the harder you twist the throttle, the faster everything happens. It really is aware of what you're doing. And even if you're in the sport mode, if you're gentle with the throttle, it is gentle with the way it behaves. So there are a couple of situations where you'll feel like hitches in the motor. Sometimes it's at 4,500 RPM, and the red line's at a low 8,000. And that's something we see often with the DCT bikes. They have kind of weirdly low RPM limits. And while it works great with the DCT, it's not something that you really, it feels weird when you're using it with a manual shift system. And that's why, to me, they brought in the DCT only. But when you have a motor that's designed to work with DCT, it works best with the DCT. And you just want to go along with that. So sometimes it hits at 4,500, sometimes it hits at 5,500, and it's a significant hit. It's almost like coming on the pipe of like a 125 two-stroke. You're going, "Rrr," and part of that has to do with just how you twist the throttle. It's a system that takes some learning, not like a huge amount of learning. You don't have to go to like law school or anything. You're not going to have any tests. It's just kind of a real life experience with the bike to understand how it works and how it interacts with what you want and what you do. And if you don't like the DCT doing the shifting, while you don't get a clutch lever, there is a Zippo clutch lever here, it does have paddle shifters. So you can perform at your Formula One racer and use the thumb to shift down and the index finger to shift up on your left hand. And I found very little need to shift up manually, but I did, if you came into a corner sometimes, especially on a downhill corner, when you roll off, it thinks, oh, okay, he's rolling off, he's going downhill, he'll want to coast more. And then it's like, oh, well, I didn't want you to do that. I need to downshift because I'm coming into a corner and I need to brake. So I'll manually downshift a couple times. The other way to do it, of course, is to get on the brakes super hard, and it will downshift. It will react to you putting on the brakes hard, but if you prefer to brake more smoothly, it's better to just use your thumb and downshift. And what's cool about it is you can downshift, upshift, and then it takes back over the automatic system of it. And so you can do that without having to lose that automatic action. Now there's also a button that allows you to go fully manual with the shifting. Again, no clutch, but you can just shift up and down whenever you want. But if you get greedy and you try to, go down to 0 miles per hour in sixth gear, it will shift down for you whether it's an automatic or manual. It's not going to let you do anything that will stall the bike or wreck the engine. It won't shift up, but it will shift down to make sure that nothing goes wrong. So, I've spent a lot of time on the motor, and that's because the motor is fairly complex. The chassis is very neutral. Again, it has, as we're familiar with, the Africa Twin frame, the NT swing arm, NT suspension, NT wheels. The bike's just super easy to ride. It doesn't have like super fast turn-in. The profile of the GPR 300 tires aren't designed for that. It's designed to just, you're riding, you're going. That doesn't mean you can't go good in the fast twisties, because you can, but it's a different kind of experience, again, because of the DCT and just the way all these things work together. But it's certainly doable. Now the front brakes, rear brakes, triple disc, as you'd expect, they work well. They're certainly not overly sensitive when you hit them lightly, but if you pull them in hard, I've found a couple times I over cooked the front wheel even with the ABS on, and so I'm starting to feel a little sometimes, and other times a little bit of slip. So the brakes are strong enough for the tires. It'd be interesting to see how they work with a stickier tire or more aggressive tire. Other goodies include standard bags, and let me just throw in the price here, because to me the price is like one of the most amazing features of this bike. It's $11,899. I don't know how they did that. I don't know how you get this much motorcycle for $11,899, but you do. And the bags are included. A lot of times when you get a sport touring bike, they leave out the touring part, and the bags are separate, and those can be anywhere from $500 to $1,000 depending on the setup. In this case, the bags are cool. They work. They're large. You can pop them off really easy, and when they're off, there's no frame there. There's just the rail mounting, so the bike looks cool without them. Like if you're just going to go on a day ride and you don't want to carry anything along with you, you can carry whatever you have, on your person. The bike will look thinner, looks nicer. Now up front, you get a full fairing, all the way down. It takes care of you, nice and wide. Gas tank, I can't remember the mileage, but we rode a long way, and I feel like the last ride we went on was like 120 miles, and it was at half a tank still. You got a TFT display. Again, this is from the Africa Twin. If you're used to that, you'll understand this. This is less complex than that because the bike is less complex because you've taken off the off-road portion of it. But there's still a lot of things going on there. A bit to learn, but nothing that you got to go to school for. Like, it's not like you have to go to the Honda store and they have a little, explanation of how to do it. And they have little classes, and then they have you, fill out a test later. You can figure it out, but it does take a bit of time. But the fairing's nice, and as I said, the windshield is adjustable. I would, of course, prefer a little button to push to move the windshield up and down. But Honda wanted to say, it's $11,899, so they had to save some money somewhere, and that's one of the places they saved it. Now, you can adjust the windshield while you're riding, sort of, kind of. It's not a great idea. It's a little notchy. It's got multiple positions that it goes through, and there's a knob you pull up. You can't really see it from there, but you pull the knob out and it goes up, and sometimes it goes up easy and sometimes it doesn't. I would personally, let me just say, I will tell you to stop. You can do whatever you want, but stopping is probably the best way to do it. The windshield in the upper mode, the upper height, can be a little bit turbulence, but then that's so personal. It depends on who you are and how high you sit and how far back in the seat you ride. So with all these notches, if you look, this is pretty high, and it goes in kind of an arc, but the arc changes, it's a decreasing radius turn, so it actually makes it so that you really get a bunch of different feels. I mean, look how low that is. That's like a sport bike. That's like not even a fairing. It's just a little fly screen. So there's this big range here. Otherwise, you've got a great sport touring platform, and this bike eats up 100-mile rides. That's not even anything. You're talking 400 or 500 miles before I would say you'd start to feel like, okay, I need to take a break. You can empty the tank, zero problems. So I think that's about it. There's not much else to tell you. Well, there's probably a lot of things to tell you because there are a lot of buttons over here. But I'm not going to go into every button on the bike. You're listening to this, you're going to either decide you're interested in the bike. If you're not, if you're interested, you go to your Honda dealer. He can tell you what the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I think I count 23 buttons, and they will explain each button in great detail. So anyway, this is Don Williams, editor of Ultimate Motorcycling Magazine, and thanks for watching.